Hey, I'm Dilip Pandya. Namaste. I'm the founder and MD of Transient Business Private Limited. I'm also a business coach and an executive coach. At TBMPL, we aim to provide a one-stop solution to all management growth enablement for businesses, individuals, as well as teams. Today, I want to touch upon a very relevant topic, relevant to all, relevant to a single founder based organization or a multiple employee, a large employee based organization. This issue plagues everywhere, plagues everybody. What am I referring to? I'm talking about team building. All of us agree, all of us know that if you want to grow, you need to build a team, build an effective team, not just the numbers. What do we mean by effective team? By effective team members hold themselves accountable and are responsible for shouldering the growth. That is how we want the team members to behave. In today's environment, we have to move out of the mindset that as employers, we are above the employees, especially while recruitment. And that is what I want to touch today, the recruitment, the building of a team, the hiring process. We really need to understand that what do we want to enable by institutionalizing the process. Are you aware that one statistic shows that majority of the interviewers are not capable of interviewing, leave alone shortlisting, right? So what happens during an interview? Basic questions, right? So what we need to understand is what do we want to structure as a process. Before that, when we roll out a requirement, a job requirement, we should be clear as to what do we want from the new joinee. And structure always helps. So when you structure your requirements as to how much do we want on what, then it is easier to find a role fit, right? Now, without doing that, what we do is we just put down several things and ask the HR or the agency so much of years of experience, so much education, etc., some basic things. But that might not be adequate. What we need to go down into is deeper into the skill sets that you require and anything else as well that helps the right fitment for the role. So right from searching for an individual, we as recruiters are enabled by the same, right? So first is requirement from the recruitment manager is to be very specific as possible on what all is required. That gives you a right pool of candidates who come for the interview, makes your job easier, saves your time. Another thing is there is a statistic that suggests that the decisions for recruitment is made within the first minute. So the candidate walks in and we, in the subconscious mind, create an impression or make that decision that this person is a right fit or not. And what enables that, or rather what disables that, is the personal biases. And we all have biases. Let us not shy from that fact. Nobody is free of biases. So personal biases creep in as soon as we see the candidate, and during the first meeting itself we decide whether we want to hire or not, and the rest of the interview is then spent building questions, asking questions which actually rationalize our initial decision, which is an unfair process, but that is what people do. That is how interviews happen. So the structure helps. So if you have given a structured input to the recruitment agency or HR, you will get candidates who qualify for that. And when then you take the interviews, you have to rate on that structure as to where does the candidate rate on each and every point or parameter that you had submitted to seek the candidate out. If you then ask correct, right, relevant questions for each of the parameter, then only you can rate a candidate and then you can arrive whether the candidate is good or not. So the entire process is short circuited. Another fallacy is we normally gravitate towards salary. And I have, in my experience, found a lot of evidences that सस्ता ढूंढने में दिक्कत हो जाती है. Why do we recruit? To build a team. To build a team for shouldering the growth. So what is important? We unfortunately give huge importance to the technical skill stroke knowledge. Actually, it should be the reverse. There are three elements. The third element is the most important. Besides knowledge and skill, attitude is the most important. It's like an iceberg. Attitude is 90%, which is below the surface. And 1/10, which is knowledge and skill, is above the surface. We generally take decisions based on the 1/10, which is wrong. We need people who are having the right attitude and they will support the growth. Another fallacy is we look for long-term recruitment. In today's world, if a person spends 3 years with the organization, is enough. So you should be looking from that perspective. I have had experiences when clients reject people who seek growth. Clients reject the candidates because this guy wants too much growth. I might not be able to give him growth and he'll leave my organization. My take is if the candidate works hard for 3 years in my organization, he'll give me what other fixed mindset employee or an existentialism oriented employee will not give in 10 years. So I would definitely bet for the candidate who is a growth mindset oriented and has great attitude to shoulder growth for 3 years in my organization. I'm not saying that 3 years is the only window. I'm saying we should look beyond. But 3 years is one window that we should be bothered about and not eternity. Today, marriages are not made between an employer and employee. The day has gone when, my dad used to work for an organization for 20 years, 22 years, right? I worked for an average of 2.5, 3 years, right? Today we have people who really want growth. And if the growth is through performance, we should support it, right? So that is another fallacy that we have to move out. We need to recruit people who have the right attitude. And we need to give growth to that. As I said, the era of the employer being superior is gone. Today, retaining an employee is an employer's task. Hence, attracting the right talent and while taking interview, convincing that person to join the organization is upon the employer, right? It should not be a straight vanilla based interview where we just ask plain questions and then create a judgment that this guy is good or this guy is not good. So, growth orientation, attitude, and learning. When you interview people, don't overrate experience. If I am 7 years of experience but I have not grown, I am still at the basic level. So if I have two candidates, one is 7 years experience, same level for the last 7 years, other is 2 years experience and considerably a fresher. I have seen people gravitate towards the 7 years experience, which is wrong. The guy has not grown. What will you do in your organization? I would rather give that to the potential of this 2-year-old guy, right? And if I have a 4-year-old guy, a person with 4 years experience who has grown, then definitely that person is my person, right? And giving growth to an employee also becomes very, very inherent to my growth plan. If my employee grows, so do I. I cannot grow alone. I need to keep on building team. I need to keep on having people who enable me to keep on working on the strategies and building the organization on a larger scale. So don't just go for experience or knowledge or skills. I'm not saying they are not important, but you have to put them in the right perspective. According to me, knowledge and skill can be acquired. I had a client who is into scientific instruments, very technical, highly technical, and very critical. And we started with engineers of a very specific field for building their team because they believed that this is the kind of technicality involved in product. And then we moved to generally engineers when we started expanding and could not find that specific strain of engineers. Then we moved to science graduates. And in the third year, we also recruited arts graduates to front end the growth process. Yes, during that years, we built a backend to enable the arts graduates and support the arts graduates to front end the process of the technicalities involved. So what I want to underline is knowledge and skill can be acquired if a person is learning oriented, if the person is growth oriented. So according to me, 90% mark should go to attitude and only 10% to knowledge and skills. What do? Reverse. Actually, we don't seek out attitude. I've seen clients, I've seen recruiters who are so insecure that when they see somebody who's smart, they feel intimidated and hence they, chuck that candidate out. He's too smart or he's not enough smart, whatever rationalization. We don't recruit that candidate. Jack Ma in one of his interviews said, and very candidly admitted that I don't know many things. My task is to recruit people who are smarter than I am. Very big admittance, but very critical for his growth. I build a team wherein I recruit people who are smarter than I am. My task as a leader is to make them function together, which is a task which is difficult because if people are growth oriented, learned, and have wonderful abilities, then they would have their idiosyncrasies. So Jack Ma says, I'll create a culture wherein they can exist together and create an efficient and effective organization. So don't get intimidated. Actually, you should look for individuals who are smarter than you. That way, you will have to do lesser work and your time will be spent for strategy and growth and not in operations. So these are some of the fallacies that we should actually get out of, and we should also keep on, practicing, because it's more out of practice that you will unlearn things which have been learned since ages. As I said, as a recruiter, if the candidate is walking in, it does not mean the candidate is more in need and you are lesser in need. Both of you are in need. We need to create a common platform where both can meet for a wonderful growth. Jai Hind.